Good evening. I am going to be continuing on my journey with trying to get some of these plugins working today. And kind of spoiler alert, I'm actually probably not going to be making another video for the Oceanology 5 plugin until they have some replication going on, and I'll show why a little bit later on. And then also, I probably won't end up using the character customization plugin going forward. Version 4 has like per body part customizations, and the author of that plugin in version 5 is actually going more towards an outfit-based system moving forward. And part of the reason that I wanted to use that plugin in the first place was because it had, you could have a different hat versus different shoes and stuff like that. They did a really good job with that. But since they're moving it over to per outfit, kind of like Fortnite, I'm less interested in moving forward with that. Also, there's some complexity. In fact, the first part of the demo today, we're actually going to kind of show you the monstrosity that I created while trying to get some of the animations going. And in fact, here's where I ended up. So you can see this particular character here is looking pretty horrific, actually. I did something with the skins and changed some stuff, and it looks like the textures aren't mapping as one would expect. And so once I got to this point in my attempts to try to make the character customization work with the remapping of animations for the swimming animations, I just was like, let's abort this effort and look for a different solution. So that's what we're going to be going for. But previously we were working with this scene. It's got voxel terrain here. We've carved a little cave. You'll notice that there are caustics here with shadows. And for anyone who's been actually paying attention to or watched some of the other videos, one of the issues that we ran into was that we were not able to get caustics working with Ultra Dynamic Sky. And so, MJ, this is for you. I actually sent an email to Everett, who is the creator of the Ultra Dynamic Sky and Ultra Dynamic Weather, and he was gracious enough to give me some hints on how to make some of this work. And so I'm just kind of show you how I got this the Ultra Dynamic Sky lighting effects, the directional lighting worked and plugged in here. And so here's a quick email that I exchanged that I had with him. And in fact, you can see he's saying that the caustics effect in Oceanology is using a light function material, which in fact it was on the directional light. Ultra Dynamic Sky has its own light function that it uses for the cloud shadows. And so he basically was like, there are two different ways you can do this. One, you can just basically say when we create the sun and moon dynamic effects, you can swap out the existing cloud shadow one for one that uses caustics, and that's the method that I chose to do here because it was quickest and easiest. The second one is a little bit more complicated. You basically end up taking the functions from both, combining them, and then multiplying them together right before you give the output. So it should include cloud shadows and caustics. And I may go that route at some point, but because I'm kind of stepping away from the Oceanology 5 stuff for the time being, I'm going to try some water effects that I think will work with Ultra Dynamic Sky right out of the gate. So again, anyone who wants to see this email, you're more than welcome to take a look. Email Everett Gunther. He's the individual who maintains the Ultra Dynamic Sky and Ultra Dynamic Weather. Dude is awesome, has great feedback and stuff. I also asked him about the rain falling through the water, and basically it uses something called a visibility channel by default. And if that visibility channel is set on the material, it will basically, the rain will hit it and you'll get the rain effect. I asked about it in the Oceanology 5 Discord channel and got kind of a vague answer, and they're just like, add it to the mesh, but there's a bunch of meshes and stuff. And again, because I'm looking for other alternatives other than Oceanology 5 at this point to continue forward, I didn't want to chase down too deeply. But anyone who's looking to integrate these two, here's some information. So we go back to the dedicated server and take a look at the caustics scenario we had. Again, we can disable the Ultra Dynamic Sky so you can see it is, in fact, providing the light. We can just go and take a look. So Everett suggested that we take a look at the construction script function. And so to get to that, you just open up the Ultra Dynamic Sky blueprint and do a search for construction down here. and it's got this construction script, and that has a function in here. And if we drill in a little bit more detail here, you can see that this was the default chunk of code that was being used. So it uses some volumetric clouds by default. It does some stuff, creates a dynamic material instance, sets it to the shadow ID, creates another dynamic material instance, sets it to the moon's shadow ID. And so instead of doing that, I just short-circuited it. So instead of doing a set up here to these dynamic materials, I basically just created a dynamic material instance based off of the caustic sun instance one that was built into Oceanology. So you can see this is from the Oceanology plugin, structure, materials, directional light. So in effect, I just substituted the same function that the Oceanology plugin was using for its directional light in here and used it inside of Ultra Dynamic Sky, and we were able to get the caustics working. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Everett's first suggestion worked very simply. It took me about 10 minutes to figure this out. Not a big deal, but if anyone wants to get the caustics working, go for that. To get the caustics and the cloud shadows, basically where you have both of these going together, I'm not well versed enough in the blueprints to say how to do that. But I think it's probably just a matter of getting the calculations together and then multiplying them, like Everett said, in the actual function itself that builds the shadows inside of Ultra Dynamic Sky. So, all right, that's an update to that piece. All right, without further ado, let's go and take a look at something we were trying to get done that I wanted to show, and that is the swimming. So we're going to close out of this multiplayer thing, reduce that, and we're going to get out of this old project that I did. So I set up another completely separate project without the customized character, without all the key bindings and stuff that I had to get that working, so that I could start with a clean slate. And so I was able to get some of this working, and I'll show you what did work and what didn't work, and why I'm kind of holding off on moving forward with the Oceanology 5 stuff before going into any further. So if we go and take a look at my Oceanology test map here and open it up, you'll notice it's very similar. We've got the same voxel-based terrain, and I've got the Oceanology 5 stuff. I didn't go and put any cool assets or anything like that, but I just kind of wanted to show you like how I went about approaching this and how I tried to get like multiplayer. Remember, of all the stuff that I want to do, I make sure that it works with replication and that multiple people can work on it. Because if I can't play with some of my friends, I may not want to play a game. Okay, so let's take a look here. So if we hit play right now, you can see I've got a single cube here. You'll notice that the mesh that I'm using is kind of the default one that comes with the Voxel multiplayer TCP example. So if we look at that, in fact, just multiplayer player here, you can see this is just a very simple, it's just a cube, just a static skeletal cube, nothing too fancy. But the reason I went with this is because I know that this thing works with the client mode, which is a good proxy for a dedicated server if you're trying to build for it. So if we go and look at the different networking capabilities we have, I am a single player here. I'm playing in standalone mode. This will become important here in a little bit. And so at this point, our cube jumps around, it moves, we can use the F function that comes with the Voxel plugin to fly. We can drop down into the ocean. We see the caustics and stuff. For this one, I didn't actually go through the process of putting in Ultra Dynamic Sky, but we showcased it in the last one, so I could go and add that in here if I so chose. So one of the nice things about this, and this is where I think the Oceanology 5 is kind of a blocker for me at the moment, is that when I was trying to get the animations working, one of the things I do to test before I sign off on something is I play as client with two clients. So if we do play, we now have two clients. We'll just drag this one here. We'll drag this one here, hit F11 to maximize. And so you can see we've got two clients here. So, they're networked. They can see each other. you can see, you know, as one moves, the other one moves. You can see if this guy wants to tunnel through down into the depths of the ocean and move forward, you know, you can see it real time between the two clients. This is the behavior I would expect, right? Granted, it's just a cube or like a little rectangle, but you know, it shows network connectivity, it shows water, it shows caustics, it shows all the goodies. But what I wanted to do is get the animation stuff working, and so I'll show you kind of the first couple steps that I went to get that working here. So let's close out of here, and that's the expected behavior that I would like to have working in the end, is in client mode with two clients, get them to play together, because what I found is if I played standalone, everything works great, everything looks awesome, and then I switch to client mode, or I go through and rebuild the dedicated server and dedicated client, and boom, things don't behave the same. So, all right, let's take a look at some of the stuff that I tried out here. If we go to the oceanography, or oceanology, there it comes with a character here. And this character is a third-person character. In fact, I recommended they not name it third-person character, and for a reason I'll show you in a second, because I use this third-person character template as my base for this. And so now every time I have to go in and like figure out which third-person character am I using. Am I using the oceanology one, or am I using the one that came by default? And so it gets a little bit confusing. So I recommended they like namespace it and put oceanology or OCN or something in front of it, just so that you know which one you're working with when you're searching around. And so if we go down and take a look here, I've added the voxel invoker and voxel clipping here. I have not actually gone through and made it a base of a voxel character here, and I'll show you why in a second. So this is the one that comes with oceanology, and this one has the ability to swim. It's got some swim animations in it. In fact, if we go to character, if we just go to structure here and go to mannequin animations, you'll notice it's got like a third-person swimming thing. So there's an idle animation. It's got a swimming forward animation. And so these are all built into oceanology, which is great. In fact, these work pretty well. Looks pretty slick once it's working. And we can take a look and see how this is integrated in. So I'm actually using the voxel multiplayer TCP example. And if we go to the multiplayer TCP example, there's the multiplayer mode here. And again, I just had the default voxel example multiplayer character, which was the cube, or was the rectangle or whatever. And so that worked for us. But if we just go and say, hey, I'm going to try out the third person character, you'll notice here's the example. I said, which one is which? Am I using the one from oceanology, or am I using the one from the base? And so if we go and select one of them, let's choose the second one and go back and play again, hit play. You'll notice, oh, these things are falling through. And so my guess is I'm using the default one that came with the game, because they fell through the voxel texture, or the voxel landscape. And if you've looked at some of my other videos, in fact, this says, hey, you need a voxel invoker component on your character in order for it to collide with the voxel world. And so that's why I showcased in the voxel example multiplayer character has it, so we can see it here. It's got this voxel invoker and voxel no clipping. When we go back to the oceanology one, the oceanology character, you'll notice that I came in here and I actually put those on this particular character as well. And so, in preparation for this video. So if we go back and we change our default character that we're going to be using to use this third-person character, this oceanology character, what you'll see here is things actually work pretty well once you add in the voxel invoker. It actually worked pretty well, like right almost out of the gate. The multiplayer example here, and we'll change this to third-person character. So that was the default one, so Let's actually go to the first one here, the one that has the longer description that contains movement logic. And again, hopefully in future versions of Oceanology, they have it explicitly Oceanology third-person character to avoid problems like that. So now if we use this one, let's actually switch it back to standalone to demonstrate kind of the progression. So we start as standalone. We've got our character here. Oh, you notice as soon as the water came up, started doing some floating around. Oh man, look at this. Look at how pretty this is. Swimming around, all sorts of fun stuff. In fact, this is a little bit too aggressive with the up and down access. It's pretty easy to tweak that. I had to reset the plugin, so it's kind of at the defaults again at 2500, but I think about 12 or 1300. It's a good place to start with this. But you can see this actually looks pretty good, right? The person swimming around, staying right near the surface, kind of following the waves. Pretty good. So all we've really done is take the default Oceanology character, pop in the Voxel invoker on it, and it looks nice. Looks very right. And so if we stop this again, let's go and try my client test, because this is the gold standard, right? I'm like, I want to be able to play multiple characters in here with the dedicated server. That's my bar for excellence. And so what we can see here is, see this character running up. So far, so good. Looks great. Let's dig down a little bit here. He's going to create his own little watery cave. Whoa, you'll notice some things happen there. He kind of like got shot out of the cave. All sorts of fun stuff happened. So some maths went crazy, and I'm unable to move. I'm unable to dive. I'm unable to do anything on the second client. Let's go back to our experience from the first client. So again, looks like the Voxel stuff is syncing. We jump in. Whoa, who even knows where I got slingshot to? I ended up in the middle of the ocean somewhere. And so you can see here, when I'm playing as two clients, some things are not going quite as smoothly as one would hope. In fact, let's just redo that again. Just so we can get a little bit less slingshotty experience of how this works. Oh, or not. Nope, I just infinitely got flung. So something with the Voxel invoker and the buoyancy calculation that's happening inside of the Oceanology plugin is causing some weird calculations to happen. And again, the primary client, I can't really do anything. I'm bobbing up and down. Secondary client, again, I'm just getting thrown around. The math's all weird with these two plugins interacting with each other in client mode. Now, if we go and actually take a look at this in the third mode, in the play as a listen server, this is kind of an interesting result, actually. You'll notice the main character is able to, float around and swim like you would expect, getting the caustics under the water. Got the animation all nice and clean, looks great. However, when we go to the, we can see him out there. He's hanging out, chilling. We want to come in and hang out with our buddy in the water. Whoa! The secondary client is kind of freaking out and flying all over the place. But you'll notice one key thing here. I'm swimming out in front of this other character. Maybe, unless I get kicked around. But you'll notice that the synchronization between the two is not quite what you would expect. This is a known issue with Oceanology 5. I spoke with the authors of the Oceanology 5 plugin about this, actually. They're in the middle of working on getting a replicated version of this plugin working. So this is something they're actively working on right now. You can see, while it kind of works, not being able to do it in the client mode indicates to me that there'll be some sort of issues down the road with this if you're trying to use it for a multiplayer in its current build. So 5.0.4 isn't really that usable because of all of the weird janky like flying around and slingshotting and stuff that I've seen. That actually behaved a lot better than some of the stuff that I've seen in the past. Cool. I just wanted to kind of show people who've been following me like where the status of these things are. You can actually, if you're looking pretty closely, you'll notice the waves are different between the two. Like I said, these aren't really synchronized yet. They're not replicated, but they have a build that they're working on internally, and they're going to have some people beta test it. If I get a shout out from them that they're going to have some early testing, I'll definitely get a copy of it and test it out and see how this kind of stuff works. And ideally, I'd love to be able to test it using the dedicated server and not just in client mode, because again, each different multiplayer mode you test has different types of results. So it's like standalone might work perfectly, and then you throw in, the server mode, and it works a little bit better. And then you do client, and then boom, it blows up. It doesn't even work. And what I found is if it doesn't work with the two clients in the client mode, the probability of it working well with an actually built dedicated server is very, very low. So cool. Thank you guys for taking a look at the videos. Hopefully this answered some of the questions about caustics, how to get these two Ultra Dynamic Sky and its lighting function working in with Oceanology 5's caustics, and kind of showcases the trials and tribulations that you might run into if you're trying to get some of the buoyancy and swimming animations to work in a multiplayer scenario here. I think in a single player scenario, it works very, very well. Nice and smooth. You can tweak it. It's very easily manipulatable via the blueprints. And so, like I said, it's great, but it wasn't designed for replication or multiplayer yet. And it's something that the people who are working on Oceanology 5 are actively aware on and are working on fixing. So thank you very much. I really appreciate you guys taking a look and asking all the questions in my videos. If there's something else you'd like me to see, let me know. However, I think one of my next things I'm going to do is try to get biomes going with the Voxel stuff and look for an alternative water source that works with both Voxels and ideally interacts with the Ultra Dynamic Weather's raindrops right out of the gate without me having to go and tweak some dynamic mesh stuff by hand. And then also, ideally, it works with some of the buoyancy and swimming animation stuff a little bit more smoothly. But really appreciate it. Have a good rest of your day. Thank you.